Now, and time to talk election 2011, week 2 of the campaign with Russel Norman, co-leader of the Greens. Good morning to you, Russell.
Good morning, Wammo.
Good morning. And news this morning from the Herald Digipoll that National, for the first time in their particular poll, has dipped below 50%, which means that if that was to be the result, then they would need ACT as a coalition partner in order to govern. It looks like today also that John Key is going to sit down and have that cup of tea with John Banks. That's what most of the newspapers are reporting this morning. So the games are going to be played in Epsom. My question to you, Russell, why don't you and Phil Goff sit down with the National Party candidate and have a cup of tea?
It's a very good question, Wammo. I think we won't be endorsing the National Party candidate.
But if it's a means to an end, right? Because if it's the difference between you having some kind of arrangement with National where you get a few houses insulated, or you actually make real change and form a government with Labour, why not play the game that National and ACT are playing in Epsom?
Well, I mean, I don't know that it works that well for that it's going to work that well for them, because those games may or may not work out. The people of Epsom, they've had to deal with this before, and I think they're getting a bit sick of it, to be honest.
Well, okay, they might be getting sick of it, but I mean, this is probably the last time that let's say that the people prefer MMP in the referendum this year. MMP then has some changes made to it. Probably this sort of scenario where you win an electorate and pull through a certain amount of MPs isn't going to be the same anymore. There'll be a different sort of threshold or something. So this is the last time the game is going to be played. Why not? Why risk sort of the fact that Banks might actually get in and National form a government, and they don't need the Green support? Why risk that?
So just discussing the tactics and strategy around this. Firstly, I don't think that you could have a cup of tea with Paul Goldsmith because he is a loyal supporter for National, and there's no way he's going to play that particular game. And secondly, I'm not of the view that that Labour or the Greens endorsing Goldsmith is actually going to help very much, because I think it may only solidify the ACT National strategy.
You think it could swing people all the way to ACT that might have voted Goldsmith?
Well, I just think then, people will say, look, they're trying to do this to us, and we're going to react in a certain way. I just think that sort of game playing is, I don't know that it will work.
But isn't it frustrating now? The silly people of Epsom have done this to themselves. They've let themselves be manipulated for many, many years over this.
Yeah, and they should vote for the local candidate they actually want.
Yeah.
That's what they should do.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Well, let's leave that matter behind. Let's focus on the climate change policy and the environment policy that National released this week. What do you make of it?
Well, I think it's ambitious. They want more climate change. They want it faster. They want to really increase New Zealand's greenhouse emissions. And, it's good that National Party's ambitious to increase our greenhouse emissions. I myself are of the view that it's not such a good thing, but they could be world leaders in increasing greenhouse emissions.
What do you make of the fund that they're going to set up from the asset sales to increase irrigation in Canterbury?
Yeah, so the plan there is to sell off our future like renewable energy assets, which are incredibly important and going to become more important in time, and to invest it in the pollution of our rivers and lakes, which is what will be the result of dairy intensification on a truly massive scale, which is what they're proposing. How cruel could they be? Not only do they plan to trash our rivers and lakes, but they're going to make us pay for it by the sale of state-owned assets.
Yeah, irrigation in Canterbury is. Would you, in your opinion, has it already maxed out? I mean, is it the maximum that can be done?
Well, you can always cause more damage, I guess, and so they're certainly trying that. I mean, the Central Plains Water Scheme aims to cause more damage at the moment, and they'll get, no doubt, some of these taxpayer subsidies so that they can cause more damage. And there'll be other schemes which want to cause more damage, and they'll get taxpayer subsidies too. I mean, agribusiness and corporate agriculture kind of has an insatiable desire to keep expanding, and we know that globally food prices will keep going up in the long term. So, yeah, I mean, you and I and every other taxpayer in New Zealand can subsidise the destruction of our rivers and lakes and increases in greenhouse emissions, because that's the other side of it. Because think about it, it's going to subsidise, to set up these irrigation schemes, lots more daring, all the rivers and lakes will get polluted downstream, but also there'll be a big increase in greenhouse emissions, but they won't pay any of the cost because it's all subsidised by the taxpayer.
Finally, just staying with Canterbury, you've solidified the idea of a levy for the Christchurch recovery. What size is the levy? How would it be put out there?
It raises about $1 billion a year. So the government's recovery fund's about $5.5 billion. So this would raise it in about 5 years. It raises a bit over $1 billion a year. What it means is, one way or another we have to pay for it. So National Labor are saying we're going to pay for it by borrowing. The Greens are saying no, we're going to pay for it by a small levy. So if you're on $50,000 a year, you pay an extra 60 cents a week. If you're on $70,000 a year, you pay an extra $6 a week. If you're on $100,000 a year, you pay an extra $23 a week. And that means that we can avoid all the interest payments over those 5 years, which is equal to $660 million we're going to save by having a levy rather than borrowing. So, I just think National Labor are being fiscally irresponsible by borrowing for this thing.
All right. Thanks very much, Russell. We'll catch up next week.
Okay, cheers, very much.
Co-leader of the Greens, Russell Norman, joining us there here on Kiwi. Time now is now 15 minutes past.